every Caribbean leader working well with one another. Everyone trying to protect their dollar, especially since Guyana ain't have no foreign exchange, sir, and the Jamaica devalue she dollar. Well, countries who are more wealthy, and they laughing out kiki and making style on Guyanese and Jamaican money. They can see in the Caribbean unless there is cooperation. All of them on the same road to destruction. This time them Barbadians understand. You can't sit back and laugh at Jamaica, cause without them tourist boat from Regan, sweet Barbados heading for starvation. The day you will get paid from Washington, well, Crapo smoke your pipe down in Bridgetown. It's time that you and Eugenia Charles understand that all you have is just sea water and sun. Oh, you like doing like that. And every Caribbean leader, instead of pulling together, they prefer to friend with Reagan and Thatcher. Dominican suffering bad, their goods can't get to Trinidad, cause Trini ain't giving license, it is sad. Trini saying it's big racket, they want to flood Trinidad's market with all their cheap inferior goods, and they won't accept it, but they want the re-register as the national carrier. No way, sir, Antigua turned up their offer. It's time them Antigans understand. You got to help each other in the region. You can make treaties with France and Japan, and with your own people you can join hands. Mr. Burden tourists that come St. John, they need the week for their transportation. It's time that you and Robinson walk hand in hand, cause Antigua is just the water and sun. Oh, you like that. Some people who just play zest, they feel that their country is best, cause they have more foreign exchange than the rest. Others walking high and mighty, claiming they have stability, cause their dollar in US is worth plenty. And they're meeting regularly, drawing up all kind of treaty, and after they drink their whiskey, the treaty dead already. At the heads of government conference, is mere shop talk and ignorance. Lots of talk, but no action ever commence. This time we Trinidadians understand. We got to help the other small islands. We can eat pitch and oil with rice and jam. We got to trade it for Grenadian yam. All the oil we have in our nation is just a drop in the Arabian Ocean. And stop telling Guyanese they from the mudland, cause all you have is just the water and sun. Hey! Oh, like that. Special for the girls, special for the ladies on the left. Caribbean leader, working well with one another. Everyone trying to protect their dollar, especially since Guyana ain't have no foreign exchange, sir, and the Jamaica devalue she dollar. Well, countries who are more wealthy, man, they laughing out kiki and making style on Guyanese and Jamaican money. They can see in the Caribbean unless there is cooperation. All of them on the same road to destruction. This time, them Barbadians understand. You can't sit back and laugh at Jamaica, cause without them tourist boat from Regan, sweet Barbados heading for starvation. The day you will get bail from Washington, well, Crapo smoke your pipe down in Bridgetown. It's time that you and Eugenia Charles understand that all you have is just water and sun. Oh, you like doing like that. Man, every Caribbean leader, instead of pulling together, they prefer to friend with Reagan and Thatcher. Dominican suffering bad, their goods can't get to Trinidad, cause Trini ain't giving license, it is sad. Trini saying it's big racket, they want to flood Trinidad's market with all their cheap inferior goods, and they won't accept it, but they want the re-register as the national carrier. No way, sir, Antigua, turn your ear off. This time them Antigans understand. You got to help each other in the region. You can make treaties with France and Japan, and with your own people you can join hands. Mr. Burden tourists that come St. John, they need the week for their transportation. It's time that you and Robinson walk hand in hand, cause Antigua is just the water and sun. Oh, you like that. Some people who just play zest, they feel that their country is best, cause they have more foreign exchange than the rest. Others walking high and mighty, claiming they have stability, cause their dollar in US is worth plenty. And they meeting regularly, drawing up all kind of treaty, and after they drink the whiskey, the treaty dead already. At the heads of government conference, is mere shop talk and ignorance. Lots of talk, but no action ever comments. This time we Trinidadians understand. We got to help the other small islands. We can eat pitch and oil with rice and jam. We got to trade it for Grenadian yam. All the oil we have in our nation, it's just a drop in the Arabian Ocean. And stop telling Guyanese they from the mudland, cause all you have is just the water and sun. Hey! Oh, I do like.
All you have is just sea water and sun. Stop telling Guyanese they're from the mudland, because all you have is sea water and sun. You all see why I say this is the greatest music in the world. They have nothing like calypso. I know you all younger people like your reggae. And I love reggae too. Reggae has its place. But calypso is we modern music. Only in calypso you could say what Chalk does saying there. And he's a Trinidadian. And he tells Trinidadians, don't make styles pon Guyanese because you have some oil, because you can't eat oil with bread and jam. Welcome to Politics 101. All you have is seawater and sun. That was back then when we weren't doing too good. And now Guyana got oil more than a drop in the Arabian Sea. And I hope we and make styles and the others. I mean, you still have to. Because to see Barbadian Mia Motley and them sucking up to Guyana now when they used to put people on the bench. Welcome to Politics 101. Times have changed. Times have changed. Times have changed. All you have is seawater and sun. Hollis Liverpool, Dr. Hollis Liverpool, the mighty chalk dust, seawater and sun, one of my favorites. One of my favorites, critiquing Caribbean leaders. And we see the Caribbean leaders, they're behaving the same way today. Instead of standing up with Guyana, they're throwing Guyana under the bus because they want to friend with Venezuela. They went to friend with Venezuela. Good evening. Please share that link. Please share it. It's Friday night. It's Friday night. And we are going to be talking tonight about the issues of our time. All of those who are joining us from inside of Guyana, welcome to Politics 101. Welcome to Politics 101. Those of you joining us from our Caribbean. All they have is seawater and sun. I love that. Stop telling Guyanese all you from the motherland, because all you have is seawater and sun. We are going nowhere. We are going nowhere as Guyana. We are going nowhere as Antigua or Barbados by ourselves. We got to swim together. Today, Guyana got some oil and gas, and we may be laughing, ki. But even with we plenty oil, we still not going anywhere without our Caribbean. I always tell the story, and our guest tonight is the venerable, long-standing trade unionist, political commentator, Lincoln Lewis. And Lincoln would know that when the trade unionists, they came back from a World Trade Union Conference in 1919, and they came back to the Caribbean, they were talking about Caribbean integration. Trade unionists, not politicians yet, trade unionists. And we can trace our integration movement right back there. And I know that we Guyanese vexed with CARICOM because of what Mia Motley and Ralph Gonzalez and others did in re-election and what they did recently, because they're hustling a little bit of oil from Venezuela. We know that. But we have never been an anti-CARICOM people. We have never been an anti-Caribbean people. That is why the Caribbean CARICOM Secretariat is in Guyana. Burnham was not anti-CARICOM. Jagan may have been back then when he refused to take the PPP, refused to take Guyana into the West Indian Federation that lasted from 1958 to 1962. But I think later on, Jagan came to understand that the Caribbean as an entity is important. You see, Jagan was thinking about the communist world and being part of the communist world, and he felt that that's where our destiny was. And perhaps that's the reason that he wasn't focused on the Caribbean as he ought to have been. And then, of course, there was the racial reason, you know. East Indians, who were the supporters of the PPP, would have been a minority in a Caribbean nation. But Burnham was pro-Caribbean, pro-CARICOM. Guyana was pro-CARICOM. In fact, Guyana left the PPP because Jagan refused to carry Guyana into the West Indies Federation. Sidney King then. That was one of the reasons he left the PPP. He said Dr. Jagan has lost confidence in the African executives of the party. So we come from a Caribbean integration tradition. And yes, we're going to be vexed sometimes with how some of the leaders move. But we must never give up that Caribbean integration. We were Caribbean before we were Guyana. When the British and them were enslaving us, they weren't enslaving us as Guyanese and Barbadian and what have you. They were enslaving us as people in the Caribbean islands from Africa. We were Caribbean before we were Guyanese. And so we have to see our destiny wrapped up in that. Good evening and welcome. All those of you who are joining us from the United States of America, welcome. We notice that Rickford Burke is suing them for $500 million. Good. 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 Let them have their day in court. Now they're saying, I see one of the liars saying, Rickford Burke in America, he can't sue nobody in Guyana. Well, if in America, why you all going to try to serve summons for him in America? Do so not like so. Do so not like so. Welcome to Politics 101 on a Friday night. It's the place to be. The place to be. Dr. Vince Adams is usually here, but today's his birthday, so he got out in the birthday dinner and so on. Let us wish him happy birthday. Happy birthday. But Lincoln is here by himself tonight. Lincoln Lewis from West Bobis. Last week he was in West Bobis. And he was taking up his sauce in West Bobis, eating up all the cow and he beef and all the story there. And he couldn't get the connection to be on with us. But he's here. He's here. He's here. He's also a Linden man, and he's a trade unionist. And tonight we're going to be talking about labor. We're going to be talking about labor, and we're going to be talking about labor within the context of this budget. This budget is still on our minds, and it has to be. $1.4 trillion is not penny money. It's not 3 cents money. It's plenty money. And we have to keep our focus there. Because they're going to have their debates in Parliament, and at the end of the day, the budget will pass. That's a reality. The PPP is going to use their partisan majority in Parliament and pass the budget. So our objective is not to get anything in the budget. Our objective is to speak to our people and let them understand what is at stake. That $1.14 trillion going to be spent over the next 12 months. And the sons and daughters of Coffee, the sons and daughters of Burnham and Sidney King, Guyana, and Rodney are not going to have a say in how that money is spent. How you all like that? That is not what we slave on the plantation for. That we money going to spend and we don't have a say in it. That is what is at stake. I hear people say, and the PPP should do this. And the PPP said very clearly, Jack Jones said, we ain't doing nothing. That is what we want you all to key into. Share that link. Share that link. Caribbean integration is still important. It's still important. Good evening, Carol. Good evening, Esther. Good evening, Marcel D'Oliveira. D'Oliveira is a hell of a name. The first time I heard about D'Oliveira was when I was a small boy. Basil D'Oliveira was a South African cricketer who moved to England, played for England, and then England picked him to go to South Africa, and the South African government said he can't play there. The days of apartheid. Days of apartheid in South Africa. Apartheid in Guyana? Yes, yes, yes. There is apartheid in Guyana. Apartheid in Guyana. Coffee 250 is an emerging apartheid state. They tell me that 2 years ago. And the government was in a tailspin. As I said a few weeks ago, I was there when we came up with that formulation. I was there. Nobody told me. Welcome to Politics 101. Welcome to Politics 101. Good evening to all of you. All of you. Good evening to my brother Keith Beresford. Keith, you know that calypso? I'm sure you know it. Sea, Water, and Sand. One of the classics of calypso. Let me bring in my brother Lincoln. Brother Lincoln, good evening.
Good evening, David.
Workers of the world, you have...
I'm happy that you have decided to invite me once again.
I invited
After
you.
Last week I was in Bobby's and they were using a certain carrier, not GTT or DCCL, a certain carrier. So I got cut off.
They undermined you.
Yes.
Because you're a troublemaker.
Well, I want to tell you something. I can make good trouble for some people. And I want us to make trouble tonight. That's why I come on.
I am skeptical. You make trouble and get me in trouble 2 times in public. And the many other times in private I won't talk about. You talk about testicular fortitude and make I get knocked out from the Chronicle with you. Then you talk again thing, you make I get knocked off from Kaichor News with you. You make trouble for me. I can't feed my family. I can't feed my family because of the trouble. So look sharp at the trouble you're making here tonight, because you're going to make me get thrown from my household because I couldn't feed them because of your trouble.
What is indicative here is that you are still relevant and you can influence change in society, change in people's behavior. So let's get rolling tonight.
Let's get rolling. We are joined by my co-host tonight, Keith Branch, WPA member. Keith, welcome to Politics 101. You're a little bit late, but we are tolerant of latecomers one time. Don't make it happen again. Don't make it happen again at all. 7 o'clock is 7 o'clock.
Thanks, David.
Yes.
Thanks. How are you, Mr. Lewis?
I'm fine. You know, I am here with David. I hope that he behaves tonight. I want us to get them into some important issues.
Okay, I'm happy for that too.
Good.
I want to apologize for being late. Part of it is my fault. I was running a few minutes late, and then I just couldn't get into to StreamYard. It was asking me for all kinds of information. as if I was the person who was the host of the page. So I had to spend some time. I tried calling you, but I know you don't answer during the calls to let you know that I was having some difficulty.
It shows that our people are vigilant. Our people are vigilant. When they see stranger, they will bark like a dog.
Yeah.
When that's a stranger, they will bark. Welcome, Keith. Lincoln, you know this boy?
I believe so, you know.
Yeah, we he may not remember me, but at that time I was young without gray and had some black hair on my head, and I worked at and he looked a little different too, I must admit.
He's one of Bishop George boys.
I worked at the Guyana Council Church's office in
I know he's.
Yeah.
I know the name. Know that I was trying to put a face to the name all the time. But now that you tell me, you know, where he worked, I know who's the person. Yeah. Well, thanks for meeting again.
Yes.
Making yourself available. This struggle continues.
Yes.
And I'll tell you something. At that time, when you were in the struggle, you were attempting to hold back, make sure that the political system or the operatives in the political system respect the law. This time is not respecting law. This time here is about respecting law and make sure that people get something from what is justly theirs. Now you're dealing with brigands, buccaneers.
Yes, and they as they were calling the old days highwaymen. You know, because
the highway robbers.
The Bible call them wayfarers. You know, they stand in the corner of the street and they rob everyone, rich, poor, but the people who suffered the most were poor people because they had no defense. You know, the rich could have hired an armed guard or a centurion to ride beside them on the horse. The poor walked, and it was easy for the wayfarer to stand in the bushes and just grab them and take whatever they have. Even the sandals they would take. We have some sophisticated wayfarers in Guyana. They rob the poor of everything.
They rob the poor of everything.
You know, I read constantly of elements of the state talking about the poor wanting handouts when the masses ask for relief from the terrible cost of living, and the incapableness of the workers to buy basic food items because wages are so stagnant, and they call that handout and welfare. But when the government decided that they would waive the freight for all these big businesses importing billions of dollars of items and so on, they don't call that handout. Those billions of dollars that the big importers are getting in terms of tax relief and in freight waivers and so on, they don't see that as handout. But the poor, that's a handout.
The poor out. Lincoln, let's get into business here. $1.14 trillion budget. What does that size of budget tell us about where we are in Guyana today?
Basically, if you remember well, running up to the national and regional elections, Mr. Jagdew said, who wins this election will be in power for a long time because there will be a lot of money to be spent. When he made that statement, I interpreted it to be that these guys are after the money and not merely after distribution of the funds or the resources of this country to the people of this country. This big budget will give the government or some people in the government an opportunity to give out contracts, and even if the contracts are not, or even if the projects are not successful, is that they will be making money off of it. It is merely a process of transferring the state resources to a cabal in this country. Because the previous budget, there are so many things that have not been completed. They are coming back to the same projects again to get this thing done. There isn't much for, let me say to you that the trade union really, we look out for three sets of people. Those who are currently employed, those who will come into employment, and those who left the active employment and are pensioners. And when you look at this budget, it has not given any opportunity or opened new doors for any one of the groups. We have spoken, for instance, for those who are coming into the workforce and some who are in. We talk about free education. We have money awash now, but we don't intend to give free education to the people. To those students who are going to be leaving high school, going on to university and so forth. Let me say to you, they are prepared to use a sizable portion of this budget to give it to private institutions, to provide education, when at the same time they can use that same money to improve the capacity at the university at Turkine and Tain. They can use that same money because to do some work, even prepare a like Linden, Region 10. Region 10 has been a mining area. You want to, even if it's starting a campus to do mining and some other things in that community, start there, because you have the terrain, you have the mine there, that you can do the same. You can do a campus maybe in Region 2, and you may do one in somewhere in Region 9. These guys are that in itself. You're talking that you're leaving, that you don't have the requisite skills, the requisite human resource, trained resource to meet the developmental goal of this country. You can use that money to do that. You're prepared to put it into other universities, and you're going to say, and most of these universities, they are online, right? They're online. I'm not condemning the online, but what I'm saying is that a man or woman who leaves, who are doing a 4th year at university, in most cases, at least they will want a good grounding, a base to move off on. And it may be better for you to have face-to-face, a lot of face-to-face presentation, where the lecturer can interact with the students. UG can give that. They are not comfortable. They are saying now that they have problems with UG, problems that they never spoke about before, because the government their own intent is to control. Is to control, is to direct the vice chancellor and the whole team. What must happen? You know, I sat on the council. Let me hear, this thing has not changed, you know. I sat on the council when, years ago, I sat on the council.
You mean the UG Council?
Yes, the UG Council. I sat on that council. And I have looked how the PPP representatives there. They want to get involved in all the minutiae at the university. You know, there was a lecturer. Let me just bear with me. Let me explain something. There was a lecturer who did not produce his he went on sabbatical and never produced his research and so on. He paid money and that kind of thing and so on. And that matter ended up at the council when it was a matter to be treated with at the level of the department, you know, the dean and the faculty, and them should deal with that. But he ended up till there. And I took a position right there to challenge what they were doing. They were trying to fire this guy, which is one of your friends, right?
Your friend too.
Right? And I argued the case and pushed them down. You know why I did it? Because I see what I saw then was a question of interference into the day-to-day management of the university. Your countryman Beaufort, I always remember this story. The council start to get involved. Council members want to negotiate with the union. That caused Beaufort to go with an hammer to board up the place unless they come to terms, right? Because these guys always believe they must interfere in everything. Even your house, they want to interfere in. I'm raising this matter for you to understand the people we are dealing with. This budget, why we could not have done significant work in reforming the NIS? Why we could not have put some money in the NIS to remove that deficit, make it buoyant, right? And you can pay a decent pension. You know, some years ago, you used to get, if you go to a doctor and the doctor prescribe whatever the doctors prescribed for you, you could have gone back to NIS and they would have paid for it. That was taken away, you know. During the life of the PPP, that was taken away, right? Now we get money. Why we can't put back those things in place? Why we can't do it? You know? So since 1969, you get the NIS has been promulgated. Since then, you put it in place. It makes provision for unemployment benefit. Nowadays, the reformation that is taking place in this society at the industrial level is that people go to work today and they don't know if they will be there tomorrow. But if a man is fired and you put in NIS or they tell the man for some reason he will be out, gone off. If it's 6 months, this man taking to find a job. That NIS, that unemployment, if you kick in unemployment there, that would have helped that family for that 6 months. But now there's nothing. A man who goes off now, he got to go and scrunch. You push that family back into poverty. And you made a point earlier that this guy saying, Jack, you say what they going to do? They're doing what they want. They're listening to anybody. They're deciding not to do it. But it don't help. Why you invite people and ask them if you want to consult with you? Consult if you decide that this is what you're going to do. What the hell are you consulting with people about? And we are going to be next week. They're going to the estimates. The opposition inside there going to ask all the question. But while they ask question, they to the camera. They will not change anything, and you know that. And you said it. Nothing will change. Let me tell you. This question here at cash transfer. It must happen. But you know how they see cash transfer? That you must come out and go and put on they'll give you a t-shirt and you go and protest for them or support the rally and they give you $10,000. That is how they see cash transfer. What they do is that they're using the state money, this money will come out from there, to dehumanize the ordinary man.
To dehumanize
They will say
the ordinary man. Yeah, Lincoln Lewis here, trade unionist, delving into the budget tonight from the perspective of labor. I have with me as my co-host tonight, Mr. Keith Branch, executive member of the WPA. We are talking budget. Before I bring you in, Keith, let me just ask Lincoln a pointed question. Lincoln, the TUC came out with was it a 15-point plan?
Yes.
A 15-point plan. Was any of those points?
None. Don't go further. No, none of them reflected there.
None. Good evening to you, Honorable Flubes. I owe you an appearance on this program now for months, but you're a busy lady, you're a busy person, your profile has gone up, and I have to adjust the program to suit your profile. Good evening to you, Nima Flubes, one of the hardworking members of Parliament. She now shadows Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport. And so we have a lot to talk about when we have Nima on next. I have to apologize because I promised to invite her if she came back from Ghana a few months ago, and we haven't gotten around to it yet. My bad, as the young people would say. Keith, any question for Lincoln?
Well, I don't have a question really for Lincoln because it's universally accepted by those who are not recipients of the government's largesse that this budget will do nothing for the working poor. I should say, have nothing at this time. But I want to make a point that the trade union movement in Guyana is, I think, the largest organized movement in the country. It's the umbrella organization for all working people in Guyana. And I believe that the unions could embark on an education process, making people aware and organizing them into the streets. You see, the PPP only understand when numbers are in the street. And this is historical for the PPP. And therefore, I would like to see, take, for instance, retired public servants. You retired, say, in 2000. At that time, your salary was, $65,000 a month as a mid-level public servant. Your pension was maybe $30,000 a year. You get a gratuity offhand, but the pension was say maybe 33 1/3 of your yearly earnings or whatever, that person is still receiving practically that same amount of money today as a pension. Give and take the few dollars that were handed out, which really doesn't cover inflation or the cost of living.
All right.
Even if inflation gradually moves, the cost of living has been jumping because of food prices. And I would like to see, and I don't know what is inhibiting the trade unions from engaging this government.
Well, you said that you said you didn't have a question for Mr. Lincoln Lewis, but I noted a question there. Lincoln, over to you.
Let me say to you that this is a government that will not engage the Guyana Trade Union Congress across the table on issues that we will have to discuss and agree on what is stated. They engage us because they want to hear what we have to say about what ought to go in the budget. They invite us to a meeting because they are already, I made a point that they already make up their mind what they're going to put inside. But that is inviting us is for the cameras and to say to the world that we are democratic and we are engaging with the trade union. They don't really understand me. That's the only reason they do it. But even the Guyana Public Service Union that has recognition, the Guyana Teachers Union that have recognition, they will not talk with the unions. Can you imagine the Minister Parag was in Parliament and responding to an opposition speaker saying that there is money even money in the budget for pay increased wages, which will be paid out sometime ago. She ain't talking about collective bargaining. When 23(1) of the trade union recognition law speaks that the employer, so long there's a certificate of recognition, the employer is obliged to negotiate with union in good faith, right? They are prepared not to negotiate. I want to tell you, there is only one thing, let me tell you, there's only one thing for these people. When they go into opposition, then you take the advantage to lock them away for a long time. They don't care. They don't care about anything. And the faster Guyanese come to term to realize that these people don't, I'm going to be on this point. Let me tell you something. 2 days ago, I believe it was 2 days ago, 3 men came to my office to talk with me. And they were saying that they're clean drains. And you know what those men were asking me? They said they get contract for clean drain, they increase this year, and the men tell me plain, they say, the money will increase this year. The money will increase this year for cleaning these gutters. So I said, yes. So you will get big money. The man said, now where the big money? He said, you know what these men are doing? They're giving me this money to keep me down in the gutter. That's where they want us. These are people who they believe not thinking, that they may not have gone to a school and what have you, but the men understand what this government is doing. Said they're giving me the money, they want to keep me in the gutter. Big money will go to their friends. Their friends in Ulime at Middle Street and where you call it, at Main Street and where the other one, in Marriott and them, their friends. They're going to be doing that.
Lincoln,
This budget.
Lincoln, let's get on to some specifics. I know you mentioned the question of collective bargaining, and that principle of collective bargaining has been violated by this government, and it continues to violate a collective bargaining. Let us go to a related issue, and that is, Keith mentioned the question of cost of living, which arises from the high prices in the market and prices of goods and services. And though the government could contribute, and I think the Guyana government does contribute to the rise in prices are generally determined by the market. Ultimately, the market determines rise in prices. And so therefore, the role of government, as enshrined in the Constitution, one of the roles of government is to look after the welfare of the people. And one of the things you do in terms of looking after the welfare of the people is to ensure that the people are able to mitigate high cost of living. And one of the primary ways any economist will tell you to do that is you have to ensure that the workers, who are usually the heads of the households, that they have more income. And that income obviously has to come from increase in wages. Now, when we look at the budget, there is no line item, there is no section that says this money is set aside for increased wages. We understand there's $7 billion in the budget, which I think Minister Parag was referring to. I think it was $5 billion last year. This year is $7 billion, ostensibly to deal with rising salaries for the workers and so on. Now, $7 billion in a budget of $1.14 trillion is almost nothing. Almost nothing. And we understand that $7 billion is really to cover promotions. They use the money if somebody's being promoted. They use that money to meet the raising their salaries, etc., etc. So really, there is no guarantee in the budget. No money that you can point to and say this money here is for the wages for the workers. Am I correct in saying that? And if that is so, is that the general practice in other countries?
Let me put it this way. Wages is not what we call, it is not a dollar that goes. Wages are, there are a number of components in wages.
Okay, good. Right.
Yeah, there are a number of components in wages. Among those things are things like allowances.
Yes.
Right? It is not only the direct wage that goes in that a person collects when the month comes. It's not only that. Allowances, vacation benefits, and all these type of things are in that. So you need to, they need to, when you're talking about wages, they need to disaggregate what you're talking about. How much for vacation benefits, how much for direct pay, how much for, you may have projects that you're looking at, how much for that, you know, that's how this thing is being done. There are what you call direct and indirect wages, right? And when you look at what the cost of living has skyrocketed, you need to go right back to the basic. Look back at you need to look at the levels that you have, how many are the various bands. You need to readjust those bands. Not only giving people an across the board, but you need to readjust all these bands. because what you may be having and what you do have in the service is a person who may have let me explain this thing to you, and which they're not approaching. You have in public service a person who may have had 2-year service, but they're getting the same pay like a man who has been there for 12 and 14 years. What the unions have been talking about all the time is to pay people on merit, right? In this process, when they say that, what they're talking about, there is what you call a minimum for a job, right? You have a midpoint of the job and you have a maximum for the job. Between the minimum and the midpoint, what minimum and midpoint, what you have, you are a learner. And between the midpoint and the maximum for the job, you have to perform far and beyond normal duty. What we have here is that we are subjected at the time when we have all this money, we are subjected to a single what we call a single rate job, which the public service don't make provision for, right? Something has to be done, right? So this money that they're talking about is inadequate to do these things that need to be done. There was a commission that was headed by Ara Lutchman that made a number of recommendations. Among them, those were the recommendations that we need to go back and pay people based on their merit and performance.
On the merit and performance. The reason I asked that question, Lincoln, is I remember listening to budget speeches from way back in the 1970s. And I remember always looking forward to hear how much the minimum wage would go up to, how much per day workers will get to. You know, he used to give Burnham hell when he would announce that workers will get so many dollars and so on. What I'm saying is that you don't hear direct reference to rise in salary for workers in the budget speeches today. And I'm sure there is money there, but why is this money hidden away? And they don't deal frontally with the question of wages for workers as they used to do budget speeches.
Let me say to you,
I'm going to let you come in as soon as Lincoln is finished. Yeah.
Let me say to you what used to happen. Is that during Burnham, even during Burnham time, where you may have had, where you call that wage freeze in 1979, the $14.
Right, I remember that well, yes.
But those people who were between the minimum and the midpoint, they were given money, you know.
Yeah, but
you understand what I'm saying?
Why the present governments do not deal frontally with the question of wages of workers?
This government believe that the money belongs to them, and you must grovel. You must feel a sense of gratitude that they're giving you something. There is a psyche, you know. Let me tell you this, David. In introducing the program, you spoke about Caribbean integration, right? These men and women don't believe in nationalism. They don't understand that it's not in the lexicon. These are different groups, right? Yesterday they were in Brazil giving away. Let me just say to you, it's 62 years. 62 years when we talk about budget, it's 62 years. We have fought, this country has fought that the issue of the Venezuelan border remain an issue in the multilateral, as a multilateral issue, meaning UN and them involved. These take it out. You realize that they take it out?
Yes.
And they got it somewhere? They don't understand these things. All these men are seeing is Venezuela Essequibo has a lot of oil, you get diamond, you get gold, whatever more it may have, timber and so on. They are looking how they can deal, they can enter a deal or a partnership with a group from Venezuela to exploit it for money. They see nothing more. Nationalism don't mean anything to them.
Anything to them. Keith Branch, you can come in with a question for Lincoln.
Yes, I just want to mention quickly that when we talk about this $7 billion that are set aside for public servants, apart from the non-wage emoluments that are in there, like the part of the compensation, like travel allowance and house allowance and whatever else the allowance like those in the upper echelon get, we must also remember that there are a group of public servants who are on contract and are paid exorbitant wages. And some of them are being paid $1 million a month. And their wages are also included in that 7%. So, and they're on contract, so you have to pay them. So when you take away, and their contract might have more than a 7% increase. Their contract may have a 10% increase. I mean, those guys who come down, leave their jobs in Queens and Fiji and so on to come down, they're not coming down for pennies. And when you take away that group, that salary group, when you deduct that from the 7%, those people in the below mid-range have really nothing to get, because the chunk of the money is gone elsewhere. And I come back to the issue of what the TUC as a mass organization controlling all or influencing all the employees in the country. Why can't they launch a program to bring the people into the streets to pressure this government? What you talked about Lincoln, about the structure of the wages, and it is truly backward. The wages are structured in Guyana in the same way that they were structured in the 1950s. I worked in the public service for about 5 years or thereabout at the Ministry of Education, and so I in personnel, and so I have an idea of what the structure was like. And today, when I listen to the budget, it's the same wage structure. It's the same band. You just add some more money to it. There have been no analysis of job and job values. And I've made this point before. Most countries now have pegged income to the value of the position in the organization. And I have said, if you have a nurse who has accident and emergency nurse who'd been there for 20 years, and you have a medical doctor who is in his or her second year out of medical school and working in accident and emergency or any other place in the medical system, whose job is more important to the functioning of that hospital? The 2-year experienced doctor or the 20-year experienced nurse? In Guyana, the doctor, because he's a doctor, is paid better than that nurse who has been there for 20 years. So the whole principle on which salaries are organized is totally outdated.
Lincoln,
But for us to get to a position where these changes could be made, I think that the trade union, as I said, has the ability and the capacity to make it happen.
Lincoln, I'm going to throw that question again to you for the second time. You slipped it the first time. The question is asked, why is the trade union, why is the TUC and the trade unions affiliated to the TUC not organizing people to go onto the streets to demand better wages, to demand that the government recognize and respect the collective bargaining tradition? Why are you all not organizing people to go onto the streets?
I want to tell you that the question of organizing people to go to the street, you have seen the experiences of 1999. A trade union is led from behind, but is guided from in front. It is guided by the people who consider to be leaders, but it is led from behind. The most successful strike you have had recently is 1999, where the public servants are there. Starting with the public servants. Who called the strike? Who forced the strike? It was the members of the public service. So the members of the public service union who are employees of the government, of the state. The TUC, for instance, the TUC don't have bargaining rights, with the government or no employer. The agency that has the bargaining rights or the recognition is the individual unions. And in this circumstance where you have a government that is prepared on every occasion to pay their way, buy their way, or beat unions. We have in the system is a divide and rule situation. You have FITAL with 4 unions there, right? GAU, NASI,
CCW, and the Guyana Labor Union.
And Guyana Labor Union. Let me just give you an example. With the 1999 strike, while GAU came to attack the strike, we were stronger at that time, where we were able to ward them off, where you had greater collaboration and you had much experienced men leading. These are the days when you people are afraid to even, some leaders are afraid to even come out and stand up against it. You have a problem. What we need at this time is a situation where we have to go back to the drawing board. In fact, I never said it, and while you're asking me this question, what we are looking for. We are looking to train for, we are looking to do 10 programs this year to bring people up to date. Introduction to the trade union movement. We are looking to bring 40 persons each on it. We are talking 10 persons with 400 people we're talking about. So we have to start preparing a new generation to fight. We can't any longer look back and see what we used to do. But all of this call for resources. I was talking to a general secretary of a union today, sit down to talk with the general secretary. And they said, look, he was saying to me, look here, I'm not prepared to do A, B, and C what the government wants. I'm prepared to make a contribution while the idea of the 40 persons, they are prepared to buy the food, the lunch and the snack, for their people to come there. So in fact, what I want to say to you, Keith, is that when you're sitting down, we understand what is taking place and we got to prepare for the battle. You can't fight, you cannot be able, you're not able to sustain on the street now. And not only sustain, to get people on the street now as you would have had 10 and 12 years ago.
10 and 20.
So we got it.
Lincoln Lewis here tonight, along with Keith Branch. Gentlemen, as you know, we have to make way for other programs. So I'll ask each of you to your closing thoughts. I'll start with you, Keith.
Yes, thanks for having me on tonight. And Lincoln, good seeing you again after so many years. The last time I saw you was at that pre-election rally in 2015 at Stabroek Market Square, where you spoke. And the struggle for workers' rights, the struggle for the betterment for the people of Guyana, just seems to have dropped in the laps of a few people. And since that is our vocation, as they would say, we have to take the mantle. We have volunteered and committed ourselves to struggling for that better life for the Guyanese people. And whether the budget is 1 trillion or 1.4 trillion, the fact is that the working people, the Guyanese people in their masses, those people who we seek to represent or to make better, are not going to benefit. And we, as a people, as an active group of people from different organizations, has the responsibility to ensure that we sensitize people, we educate people, and we do whatever it's necessary to make those changes effective.
Lincoln, your closing thoughts?
Let me say, that I'm grateful that you have invited me, and let me say to you, thanks, and thanks to the viewership. But let me make the point that we have to work for a change. We cannot allow one group to hijack the resources of this country and just share it among themselves. When you look at what happened in some countries, with less resources, those people have been able to bring about changes. We got to work here to bring about changes. I want to say to the workers of this country, join the trade union and take it back. Take it back from the people who are using the trade union to prop up dictators. We have to start working. We got to work for this change. Come this year, let me reiterate, we're going a massive training program. We have to sensitize our soldiers about what is taking place. When you started talking about 1990, and you made a point. The trade union, while you may not have used this word, but we were saying that we were the first mass-based organization in this country. And and let me say to you that we fought for one man, one vote. The trade union movement fought for it. It is not the politicians. We start the march and we continue to until it happens. This vote this time, let me say to you that this vote will not be determined, must not be determined by a few politicians. The workers must determine what they want and how they want it. Good night.
And thank you,
And may-
Lincoln. Thank you, Lincoln. Thank you, Keith. And you guys don't be a stranger. Please come back. Please come back and contribute to this ongoing discussion and this ongoing mobilization. Thank you all so much. And to you, the audience, as usual, thank you all for making this happen. Without you, there can be no program, no Politics 101, no In the Ring, no Straight Up, no Guyanese Morning Time, no Conversation with Rick Burke, no Voice of the Diaspora. None of the programs would be possible without you. And so we salute you as always, and to say that we continue to love you, and we want that love to be reciprocated so that we can achieve what we set out to achieve. And that is to free our country and free up space for people, real people, to take control of their lives in their communities and in their country. Have yourselves a relaxing weekend, retool, re-energize yourself to come again next week for us to continue this struggle. The struggle goes on. The struggle goes on.